Hello, my name is Haley Wagner, and this is my executive interview presentation. For my executive interview, I decided to interview Dr. Vicki McNamara. Dr. Vicki McNamara is the Chief Operating Officer at Discovery Schools, which is a private special education company here in Missouri. It was incorporated in 2019, and it currently has 4 locations in Missouri, but it is looking to continuously expand. Dr. McNamara, as the Chief Operating Officer, is responsible for a lot of the management and long-term goals involved at Discovery Schools, which I will be referring to as Discovery throughout this presentation. Some of Dr. McNamara's duties involve hiring and HR duties, which then leads to staff and personnel management. Some hands-on administrative work. Dr. McNamara spends a considerable amount of time in the schools working with both the students that Discovery services, as well as the staff members and teachers involved in the organization. Part of Dr. McNamara's duties is to serve on the leadership team, which addresses big picture strategic issues, such as the one that we will be discussing today. The issue that we will be discussing today is the formation and maintenance of a unified leadership structure. This is something that Discovery has been struggling with since they incorporated in 2019. It started as a very small organization with just one school and one CEO, but as the leadership team has grown, they have been struggling to form a unified front and maintain efficient communication and effective communication to their staff members. One of the reasons that Discovery faces this issue is because they're so spread out throughout the state, with people and staff in all these different locations, as well as the leadership team being spread out throughout the different locations. It can be difficult for the leadership team to efficiently portray what they need to the staff members. And because of this, it's led to communication problems, and staff members have reported feeling confused and misled, which leads to frustration and even possibly resentment from staff members towards leadership. Staff members have reported that policies and expectations are unclear to them. They often will hear one direction from one leadership member and another direction from another leadership member. So they're not really sure what they're actually supposed to be doing. And they're worried that if they do the wrong thing, then they're going to get in trouble. But it's not really their fault because they just received 2 different instructions. So the root problem there is that those 2 leadership members are not on the same page about what the staff members should be doing. If this issue does persist at Discovery Schools, there are going to be long-term strategic consequences, and it could lead to some serious disadvantages as Discovery continues to expand. One of these things that could happen is further frustration of the staff. Like I said, this can lead toward resentment, which, if it becomes deep-rooted and systemic, can be really harmful for the organization, especially a school where things are high stakes and important decisions need to be made every day by both staff members and leadership. This can as well lead to a high employee turnover rate, which is a symptom of the strategic issue that Discovery has been dealing with. They have a pretty high employee turnover rate. As I mentioned, this will lead to issues when Discovery continues to try to expand. They want to continue to set up these schools across the Midwest, across Missouri. However, by doing this, it means that more leadership are going to have to enter the mix because you have to have leadership at all these different locations they want to have. If policies aren't clear now, then this issue is going to scale as the company scales. One of the analysis I chose to do was the Pastel framework. The 3 main areas of the Pastel framework I focused on are social, technological, and legal. As far as socially, some factors that feed into Discovery is that different demographics in areas may affect the number of students and demographics of the students at their different locations. Different cultural norms could affect communication styles from staff members and leadership. If they're hiring in the locations that these schools are in, then they're going to get a variety of people who may expect different things from employers or communicate in different ways. Technologically, more communication options could open up for Discovery down the road, which could help facilitate this effective communication that Discovery needs and make it easier for staff members to get appropriate information. Legally, primary and secondary education, which is what Discovery does, is a highly regulated area, and it's very important that staff are compliant with not only Discovery's policies but also government regulation. And if they aren't being properly communicated to or aren't receiving proper training, then this could be a long-term issue that could lead to some very serious financial and legal consequences for Discovery schools. This is the strategy canvas I set up for Discovery. As you can see, the three different areas that we're looking at here are a public school special education program, Discovery schools, and then a private resident school. So Discovery Schools is not a resident school. They set up as an attachment to a public school district and provide specialized services for children in that public school district. So when a parent has a child with special needs and is trying to figure out where to get this education for their kids, these are the three different options. Discovery Schools is the red line in the middle. As you can see, they're kind of middle of the line in price. They can provide generally a higher quality of service than a public school can because they're getting that money, so they're able to invest some of that money into professional development and training and such. They're going to provide specialized services. However, one downfall or issue that Discovery is facing is that they're not as available. Every student is entitled to public education. So every student does technically have access to public education, and every school is required to provide education for these students. They can't turn away students. However, the quality of the services they provide may not be as high as if you pay and go to somewhere like Discovery or a private resident program. My internal analysis for resources, two resources I identified were specially trained staff. Many leadership at Discovery have special qualifications. For example, Dr. McNamara has a PhD in special education. The leadership staff come from wide varieties of backgrounds, such as business, hands-on education, such as teaching, administrative, governmental leadership even. So this is definitely a resource because these people are all able to bring in their past experiences and contribute to the team in Discovery. They also own a building. Only one of the four locations that they have do they actually own the building. It's in Rolla, Missouri. And this is a really big resource for them. This is what I do my further analysis on in a moment. It allows them to have basically complete flexibility with how they want to set up their services, how they want to run this area, the buses and transportation that they want to provide. This is really a big resource of them that it's important that Discovery is utilizing to its fullest extent. One of the capabilities I identified in my internal analysis is the newly incorporated company culture. Because Discovery only incorporated in 2019, so about 7 years ago, they are still considered a pretty new company, and they are still kind of on the smaller side, 4 locations in Missouri. But this creates like a boots on the ground kind of feel where it feels like leadership maybe isn't so detached as you get in a really big company, and staff may feel like they're able to voice their issues and opinions and communicate with leadership more easily than if they had some big bureaucratic process to go through to try to get a hold of leadership and give them their ideas. For my VRIO analysis, I focused on that own building resource because I think it is a big resource that Discovery has. There's 4 aspects to the VRIO analysis to identify whether or not your firm is utilizing that resource to its fullest extent and whether or not it provides a competitive advantage. Number 1, is the resource valuable? Yes, almost objectively, a building, an owned building, is a valuable fixed asset. If no other reason than that could be sold for cash, which therefore makes it valuable, even if it may have depreciated in value, which is possible with property, it is still worth some amount of money. Is it rare? Yes, because other than this building, Discovery rents, and a lot of Discovery's competitors also are renting, or their government maybe, or the building might be provided by the state government or what have you. Depends on the situation. It is costly to imitate. It's a fairly large building and worth a considerable amount of money in a pretty small town. So building this size and location, road access to transport staff and students in and out would be considered costly. And is it organized to capture value? Yes. Over time, as Discovery has owned this building and has experimented with the best ways to organize the building, um, it has been organized to create maximum value at Discovery, and it really fits their needs. So my conclusion is that this does create a sustainable competitive advantage, owning this building and being able to operate it to its fullest extent. Dr. McNamara's current initiative to address the strategic issue that they are facing. Her current initiative is that she runs an annual leadership staff retreat, which I will be referring to as the LSR, Leadership Staff Retreat. The goal of this leadership staff retreat, as stated by Dr. McNamara, is to create strong leadership relationships. And the effect, if they are able to actually do this, is that it'll lead to better professional communication, both between leaders and also between leaders and staff down throughout the company. This will encourage increased cooperation between leadership if they have a friendly connection, if they're able to bond over things outside of just work, because they may not agree on what one leader wants to do at work. But if they can bond over other things and form a camaraderie, then hopefully that will help make those kind of tough conversations at work a little bit easier to navigate. And it also allows Discovery administrative team to come together and plan for the coming school year. They do these in the summer before the school year starts, so they can make sure that they're all on the same page when they hit the ground running when the school year starts. Some of the factors at play in this current initiative, there's an assumption. The assumption is that everyone at the leadership retreat at the LSR has similar organizational goals. We may not all agree on how we're going to get to those goals, which is what the LSR is for, is to outline how we're going to get there. But Dr. McNamara is assuming that there are no underlying like relationship issues, like once one leadership member doesn't want to spite another leadership member, or one leadership member might have a personal agenda, like they are trying to get somebody else's job or what have you. So she's assuming with this LSR that none of those things are in place, which can be a risky assumption. Some trade-offs. These resources, these LSRs are fairly expensive. Dr. McNamara is bringing these leadership members to general like an Airbnb or a hotel or what have you, and essentially hosting them for a few days, which can be expensive for Discovery. So in theory, these resources could be poured towards a more effective solution, a more effective initiative. And then a risk is that the goals of the retreat are not met, that Discovery spends all this money and all these people get together for a few days and then nothing really comes out of it, nothing really changes. That is a serious risk that they face with Dr. McNamara's current initiative. As far as resources and capabilities, Discover does have the resources and capabilities to host these LSRs and to make them effective solutions to the strategic issue. They're temporary. They have a fairly moderate cost. And Dr. McNamara, as the chief operating officer, is able to control a lot of the LSR. So if Dr. McNamara feels that she knows the best way to solve this strategic issue, then she can organize the LSR and plan it in a way that leads to the most effective solution. As far as likely competitor response, we would expect mild, very little response from the competitor because this doesn't directly affect any of their competitors. There's nothing stopping the competitor from doing the same thing. They're not like taking anything away from their other competitors. And although there is no reason why a competitor wouldn't be able to form a more effective retreat if they wanted to, or if they have the capabilities and resources to do so. So that is one thing to keep in mind, is that this is not necessarily costly to imitate or rare. Two contrasting strategic paths I outlined as solutions to Discovery's strategic issue. Number one would be to hire an outside consultant. This would allow them to bring in a fresh perspective and receive outside ideas, somebody who doesn't necessarily know all the ins and outs of the leadership relationships, but can provide objective advice. A resource that competitors may not be able to afford, may not have access to, depending on location, and they might not even be aware it's an option. The other option would be to hold a full staff forum. So I picture all of staff coming together, ideally in one room, but this could be done virtually as well with leadership, and then being able to personally, right then and there, voice their opinions to leadership, and leadership actually taking those opinions and making them actionable and showing the staff that they do value their opinions and that they are actually listening and putting those things to good use to better discovery. This way that employees are able to feel seen and heard. And other larger companies may not have the ability to do this. So this goes back to that recently incorporated thing I talked about. This makes it look like more of a team effort and everybody getting together to share their ideas. Some possible pitfalls here with an outside consultant: there is high risk, high reward. An outside consultant, at least a quality one, is going to be fairly expensive to hire. And there is a chance that the ideas that the consultant gives you either are not actionable for your team or simply don't work. And there's nothing stopping a competitor from doing the exact same thing. And as far as holding a full staff forum, it could cause even further discourse and resentment if things were to go wrong in the forum. Leadership could also appear pretentious. The employees may feel like they're being talked down to or simply placated, and no one's actually listening to their ideas, which is a possibility. My final recommendation to Discovery is that they should hire an outside consultant. The company is growing very rapidly, and they're spreading across Missouri and the Midwest. And bringing in an outside consultant who has experience with companies that are scaling this quickly, they might be able to provide an outside perspective that leadership simply has never dealt with. I think this is a good utilization of resources and capabilities. It can create further competitive advantage. The consultant can help them utilize their resources and capabilities in a more effective way to create that sustainable competitive advantage long term, which is essential as Discovery continues to scale. When I presented this idea to Dr. McNamara, she agreed. She thought it was a great idea. She admitted that her leadership team is new to running an organization of this size, scale, and growth. Some of her concerns were that it is a high price, which is very true. It requires research. You want to find the perfect consultant, the best firm that can provide the expertise that you are seeking. And it's also possible that the consultant may not totally understand everything about the organization. There may be hidden things that the consultant simply does not observe, which makes those ideas that consultant gives not work in the long term. That it is a possibility that comes with bringing in an outside perspective. And for my AI disclosure, I did not use AI at any point in my presentation process. Thank you.